What is up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and welcome to my most fun and most unfun of 2017. These, you know me, I collect a lot of toys, right? A lot of different lines and whatnot, and there've been a lot of figures that I did not get to review last year, and they're still on the docket to be reviewed this year, but I wanted to take some time out to showcase those to you and let you know which ones I've been playing around with the most, having fun posing them, looking at them and not understanding why they didn't get the love that they should have gotten when they, you know, were released, and even right now. And like I said, it's a lot. There's a lot. You know, my taste is very eclectic, and I kind of move around a whole lot of different, you know, figure lines, both foreign and domestic. And you know, I figure. Also, I'm not constrained by whatever's hot right now, because I don't give a shit. The whole point of YouTube is to see what other people think. You know what I'm saying? Not to be caught up in whatever the trends might be, because these are figures. You know, they're toys. Toys are a little bit different, and I've mentioned this before. Toys are a little bit different from everything else that's being reviewed on YouTube, in that you have retro reviewers. You know, a toy doesn't really go out of style. So the fact that toys get treated like that on YouTube, it's kind of frustrating, because toys should be immune to that kind of process, that kind of thought process. You never really have a figure that goes out of style. The only time I could see maybe interest will wane is when it's a toy based on a movie line. And you know me, I love the movie figures, especially from Marvel Legends. I think they're far superior to the comic book figures, because they have to be. The detailing is so much more, the accessory count is so much more, and you're gonna see that reflected in this video. Now, once again, you know how I do these kinds of videos. My lists are not constrained or confined to what has been released that last year. It's all based on the things that I purchased last year, everything I got. And since, like I said, I've got such a wide variety of things that I collect, you're gonna kind of see a mixture of things from different times. You might even be surprised with what, you know, finds itself higher up on the list. So I'm just gonna get it out the way before we even get into it. This is my list. I bought these figures, I'm judging them. If you've been around for a while, you know my criteria. The toy has to do the things that it was told or you know, sold as being capable of doing. You know, the sculpt needs to be on point. All the things I point out: sculpt, paint, accessories, articulation, etc. And if it's fun, it's fun. So anyway, let's just jump into this right away. Number 15. Imaginext Super Friends Flight Suit Wonder Woman. Now, I didn't buy this thing because I wanted a flight suit Wonder Woman. I bought this because it's the movie version of Wonder Woman in Imaginext form. Imaginext does some amazing stuff, and if you look at this figure closely, all the details from her big sister from Mafex, and probably also the one from SH Figuarts, all those details, like you saw in the film, they're there, except in Imaginext form, which is just freaking nuts to me. And you know me, I'm a big fan of Imaginext because they do things that other lines just fail to do, even DC-UC, which is strange to me because it's a Mattel line. So some of the same people are working on these figures. But if you were looking for kind of a cute version, like, I don't count those pops and stuff, you know, all those weird misshapen vinyl figures, but if you wanted a super deformed version of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, this is it. And it's beautiful and it's fun, and if you've collected other Imaginext figures, you can easily give her the accessories necessary to make her at least mimic what she looked like in the film. Number 14. Next up, the Hurricane Jers from SH Figuarts. It seems like a lot of Figuarts stuff showed up here. I had Hurricane Red for a while, and then for Christmas, my beautiful wife, she got me the 2-pack of Hurricane Blue and Yellow. So I was able to complete the core team. And these are cool figures, very posable figures, very colorful figures. And you know me, I like Super Sentai, grew up watching that kind of stuff. So there's certain teams that stand out a little bit more. And also due to the availability of certain teams, like there's certain figures that they actually made, you know, certain teams they actually made and others that they didn't that are older. So I kind of had to represent for my ninjas and get these guys, you know. So yeah, awesome figures here.
Number 13.
The Vitruvian Hacks Knight of Accord. This is from Series 2 of Boss Fight Studios' successful Kickstarter series, Vitruvian Hacks. What you see here is the Knight of Accord with the one of the multiple heads. I have him with the brown-skinned head just for obvious reasons. But you guys know me, I have a love of knights, and I love kind of fantasy, medieval stuff. But, you know, when you have something like this in this scale with all of this, and, you know, it's offered to you under 30 bucks, and it's even a Kickstarter. I mean, look at the paint on this guy. I mean, what? How could this not be on a most fun list? And I mean, it's me we're talking about here.
12.
Jeanette Vasquez from Aliens by NECA. There's not really much to say about this figure other than, I mean, a badass figure of a badass character who just stands out in our minds. She's practically as much of a mascot of the film as Ripley and the Xenomorph, you know, featured in the film. The Xenomorphs featured in the film. But NECA captured everything, painstakingly so. Every detail, every little hinge, the way things move, the look, and the figure is under $30. It has to make the list because these are the kinds of figures that I love.
11.
Titans Return Hot Rod. And this is kind of strange for me because I kind of hate Hot Rod, but as a kid I loved the look and I loved him in the movie before he practically got Optimus Prime killed single-handedly. So, you know, I know a lot of like hardcore Transformers fans have their nitpicks and their gripes and shit, but you know, I'm more on the casual side as far as the toys go. I'm hardcore about the comics, but everything that was wrong with the previous release from the Generations line, which it's not wrong, it was just off. Some artists drew him like that. They fixed it. Now it's more on model with what we saw in the movie, you know, with the pipes on the sides. They're enormous and they're beautiful. And I mean, even though they're not chrome, the design of the rear of the vehicle, even the spoiler itself, you know, it's more on model. And then it can open up to reveal his little headmaster dude, because that's the headmaster thing. You could pretend that's Daniel in that suit. And, you know, he's driving Hot Rod, which is dope because, I mean, that's a thing. So, for me, I was just amazed. I mean, look at all this detail. I mean, and I get it. Some of it's real simple and it's not painted. So for the OCD folks out there, it'll be something for them to complain about. But I'm pretty impressed with what Hasbro was able to do. And for, you know, under $20, I'm there. It's dope. 10. So here's a line that, for some strange reason, has been getting shat on by just about everybody, and it's superior to what we got before if you actually play with your figures. And that is the Mattel Halo Universe line. Now, you guys saw my previous review of this piece of shit right here. This is the McFarlane Halo 5 lock figure, and it's terrible. It can't barely move. He can't double, you know, hold his rifle with both hands, you know, shoulder the rifle properly. He can barely move his legs. I mean, he's a piece of shit with a beautiful sculpt. But here, Mattel captured the sculpt and gave us the articulation. And it's a bigger figure. It's 6 inches. It's not that weird, you know, 5 point something, you know, whatever size that we get from McFarlane. And it helps. I mean, you look at this and you say, look at this sculpt, right, from the McFarlane. It's beautiful. The paint apps are beautiful. And that seems to be the only thing that folks were thinking about. But then you look at Mattel's and it's like, huh, not as much paint, but the paint detail is there. The variation is there. I don't know how this was overlooked so much, you know? And it's even bigger of a deal on Master Chief because not only did you get a bigger figure with better articulation, and the McFarlane version has pretty good articulation, but the Chief is the right color. You know what I mean? He's that brighter, olive green, as opposed to the washed out kind of dead olive drab that McFarlane used. And then you look at him shouldering the rifle. He shoulders the rifle even better than the McFarlane version. So, you know, I didn't understand what the issues were. And then on top of it, he comes with an additional hand so he can hold the sword. I mean, what the fuck? It's better than the ones that they did with the McFarlane ones. I mean, granted, the sword is huge and it's out of scale. I mean, if that's how picky you are, then I could understand you dodging this. But for me, I play with the figures, and I have most of the McFarlane Halo figures. So I'm saying this from experience because I played with those figures, you know, set up stuff. I integrated them into my Joe-verse and everything, and I had fun with them. But then I got these guys, and I'm like, holy crap, I can't stop playing with them. And I don't understand why they're just not, you know, getting the recognition they deserve. You know, if you want an action figure in the truest sense of the word, this is what you need. And you have to admit, seeing your group of Spartans or whatever holding their rifles the right way, shouldering those rifles, getting ready to handle what you're going to throw them at, it's a good feeling, and that's why these are on my list. They're definitely some fun toys. Now, these figures are not without issues. They're not completely perfect. They are heavily mass-produced figures. You will come across, you know, pieces of armor that are misshapen sometimes. Sometimes you'll come across, like with my lock, he came with 2 of the same shoe, you know, the lower boot portion. But, you know, you got to expect some of that shit with these kinds of figures that you find in mass retail. But, I mean, for what you're getting in the package, for the amount of upgrade that you're getting from McFarlane's unplayable-ass figures, you know? Like, McFarlane's, there were certain ones, like I remember when Halo 3 came out, those figures, something about that sculpt was amazing, and they were so easy to play with and pose. But it's been a long time since we had that, you know? So these guys are definitely the upgrade that for most of us, if we're into playing with the figures and having fun, they, you know, they hit that mark and fill that need. 9. Marvel Legends, Thor Ragnarok, Hela, and Gladiator Thor. Now, I am a huge Thor fan. I liked all the movies, regardless of the crap people complained about. They're not perfect, not by any means, but Thor Ragnarok was fun. I don't care what the haters say. And the designs and the look of the movie was awesome, and Thor is part of that. Now, I would have liked the road-worn version of Thor from the beginning of the film with the Surtur's, you know, crown. But this one has a lot of details, and it's from an iconic scene in the film, and I think Marvel Legends, you know, Hasbro got this off. They did a really good job, you know, capturing all the details of Thor. But Hela, holy crap. Hela, on the other hand, it's like they just pulled the data right out of the film and gave it to you in 3 dimensions, and I love it. I mean, I loved her design. I thought Kate Winslet was amazing in the film, and they captured her look and feel and everything, and I have no issues with her. Even her accessories are dope. I mean, they really did the damn thing, and she's fine. I mean, like I said, Kate, did I say Winslet before? Blanchett. She just looks dope, and the figure captures this.
Perhaps I could interest you in some sword play.
Not with that. You'd need some...
And it doesn't hurt that she kind of has the Rita Repulsa thing going on, or maybe Rita has the Hela thing going on, and the connection is there with the kind of sexy but scary kind of villain. I don't know, but I dig the design and I love the figure. Eto. NECA Jungle Extraction Dutch from Predator. So, like, I love just about any of the Arnold figures NECA has done. You know I'm a NECA fan. And this one, I missed the first time, and then they reissued it in their, I think it was 30th anniversary figure, and it's just as dope as the first time. And it really makes me happy that NECA gives us second chances to get figures. I mean, look at that knife. You know what I mean? Just pure dopeness.
Number 7.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Yondu, and Gamora. So I have this whole wave. It's one of the few full waves that I've bought in recent years, and these figures kind of epitomize why I like the movie figures so much. Now, the biggest thing about these guys is not only are they my favorite characters from the films, it's just that they captured every little detail. I mean, look at Yondu's clothing. There's so many shades of burgundy and brown, just like in the movie. There's the little gold accents, there's the buckles, the belts, and of course his arrow. It's just awesome. And the way that they put the energy trail as the piece that holds it in his little sheath is awesome. It would have been dope if they gave us 2 arrows though. But, you know, the face sculpt, I mean, that's Michael Rooker and a half. I mean, there's just no way to deny it. And, you know, in the past, they were kind of meh about sculpts with the actors' likenesses, but these likenesses are all 100% there. Look at all the little detail, the sculpted detail on his face. I mean, they got the subtle beard that he has going on, the scruff that kind of turns into the beard. The fin has the shaping, the texture, the little grooves, and the multiple colors, the multiple shades of red, the metallic, and then the flat. And then, like I said before, buttons, buckles, straps, all that shit, it's all detailed on this guy's, you know, costume. Then they gave us the additional head with him just looking smarmy with that smile and the shorter fin on top of his head, or mohawk for those of you who didn't know it was a fin. It's just undeniably Michael Rooker, and I love it. You know, it captures all of it. Now the eyes are a little bit on the derpy side, but it works from most angles, you know. And he looks awesome when you see him with the rest of the team, and I have no complaints, 0 complaints, man. Man, everything works together for the benefit of the whole. Now with Gamora, holy shit. Considering how bad the first version of Gamora was, this figure impressed the hell out of me. I mean, like, that's Zoe Saldana, and I'm not even a fan of her, but I think she's awesome as Gamora. And the figure fully captures that look, fully, with no problems. I mean, every little detail on her face, all those little studs and little, I don't know what you call them, design elements or whatever that are on her face, they all are there. Her eyes look beautiful, the glossy paint used on her lips, the flat overspray that they used on her skin in general to give it more of that realistic look. It's just awesome. The gradation of her hair, you know, going from dark to light, it's just beautiful. The little accessories they did give her, I didn't show the gun, you'll see it later in Drax's hands, but she has her sword, which extends, and it was awesome that they did that. They gave you both, the short and the long version. These are all details that I love about the movie figures that you usually don't get with the comic book figures. So, you know, once again, look at the detail on it. There's even a gradation of gunmetal color over top of it. These are the designs where the Marvel Legends line shines, in my opinion. Look at the paint on her hands, around the, actually I just guessed the rings. You know what I mean? They actually detailed the rings, and the paint is for the most part sitting directly on the rings. It's not splotched all over the place. I mean, all the little buttons, her shirt kind of untucked from under her vest, the belt buckles, all those tiny little details were captured here, which is something we don't typically get. I mean, they gave her heels that she actually can stand on her own with. And now anyone who's been collecting Legends for a while, you know that typically when they give girls high heels, they can't stand. And I pointed out when I reviewed Kamen Rider Siren that you can make thick heels so that they can stand up. And they just for some reason never do that, and this figure has it. There's just, you know, no shortage of details that were captured on this figure the best way possible, you know, and that's what makes me love it so much. I mean, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Zoe Saldana in general, but this figure captures her likeness, and I loved her in this role and this design, the costume and everything. It works. I kind of wish she was wearing the armor, but, you know, I love what I saw here. You know, they really, really did the damn thing. Not to mention that her articulation is dope, too. So, yeah, having her alongside the rest of her teammates on the team, it's just, man, they really did it well. I'm impressed, and I'm glad that I was able to get a hold of these guys. I got these guys on sale. Well, I didn't get Yondu that way, but I got them on sale mostly at Walmart. But yeah, awesome stuff. They just spew fun. Number 6. Figuarts Street Fighter V. I didn't like the entire line, but I love these 3 figures. You know me, I'm a huge Street Fighter fan. I was up until Street Fighter 4. I'm not a fan of Street Fighter 5 as a game. I'm a fan of a lot of the characters. The Figuarts line captured the look of the characters in probably the most iconic way, you know, the most iconic version of each. There's no mistaking who they are, you know, despite fans being all nitpicky and shit. You know, they look like who they're supposed to look like. Colors are vibrant, musculature is there, and then their posability is just second to none because it's fucking Figuarts. I mean, people tried to find shit that they can't do, but still, they do way more than a lot of other figures. You know, there's certain little things, you know, but like you look at the body styles of these characters, it's just, man, it works. And you know, considering I have all of the Soda line with the exception of the Revolution stuff, they captured all of what I love, you know, and they easily just one-upped the Soda figures, which were essentially the standard for Street Fighter figures for years, you know. Looking at them side by side, you see how Soda was almost there. It's almost like they should have done all Alpha figures, because if they had done the Alpha series, then these would have been the modern figures, you know. But either way, you see the evolution, and I love it, you know, especially when I have them side by side like this, you know, with Chun-Li and with Cammy, as you'll see in a second. I just am not tired of playing with them. I played with the Soda figures until most of the figures are kind of wobbly and slack in the joints, you know, and I plan on playing with these Figuarts ones just as much, you know, because I enjoy, you know, coming up with choreography, and I enjoy the moves, and I enjoy the logic behind some of the martial arts based craziness that is Street Fighter, and these figures just are a joy to play with. I mean, you just pick them up and go nuts. So it shouldn't be a surprise, especially if you saw my review, that, you know, these guys are on my list. And now for some honorable mentions. We can't have one of these without going through some of the awesome figures that didn't quite make the list in the top, you know, 15 or so. That's kind of why it's so big. But let's start with the clan leader. I like this, the Predator clan leader. He's dope. I was surprised that, you know, he had so much detail and whatnot, but the reason why I put him on honorable mention and not in the top 10 is, as dope as he looks, he's hard to play with. I mean, he's big, things don't stay on the way they should. Like the mask, it's barely sitting on his face, so you do anything with him and it falls off, but it reveals this beautiful, it's not beautiful, but, you know, this face. But yeah, it's just sitting there, and there's detail on the inside, which is pretty cool. But, you know, you gotta be fun to play with. You can't just look cool, you know. And these guys are hit or miss when it comes to, you know, being able to actually play with them. So you will start off the honorable mentions, sir. So next up, we have some fun figures. You know me. A lot of you know me from my G.I. Joe reviews. So that brings us to our G.I. Joes. I managed to go back and get the Heat Viper, and then I got Beachhead from the 50th anniversary. I got them loose. Fun figures, dope sculpts. I don't even know why I didn't have this Beachhead to begin with him being my favorite G.I. Joe character. You know what I mean? Like, I should have had this one. And I have so many versions of Beachhead, it's nuts. And then the Heat Viper, I always wanted one because I saw him as kind of like a boss in the Metal Gear kind of sense, you know? So, you know, I figured, why not? You know, this would be dope. He has a weird gun. He's got the whole weird colored suit that makes him stand out on the battlefield. And I like that the real dangerous Cobra Vipers always have colors that allow them to stand out. But anyway, they're on the list too. Figuarts Harley Quinn from Injustice. She's a great looking figure with tons of articulation and some good accessories. There's just a few little things that aren't fun. I mean, number one, she's got a lot of sharp pieces on her. Like all those spikes, they actually were sculpted to a point. I don't like it because when I'm trying to move her around, my thumb always lands on one of those spikes, so it's not fun. Her hands, for whatever reason, the pegs don't go all the way into the hands. It's just like the hands are kind of resting on the pegs. So after putting those die-cast guns in her hands, they're heavy somewhat, you know? So the hands tend to pop right off the pegs, which can't be good in the long run. So I plan on replacing those guns and giving those to someone else. But she's got a ton of personality, and that's what makes her fun to play with. But those issues I pointed out are kind of the things that make me not really, I don't mess with her as much as I would like to. But she fits in really well with my Arkham City shit, because that's the versions of my Batman, most of my Batman villains, because I love how they handled all those characters. But you know, she's a dope figure, and maybe I'll get the Joker, because right now he's got to be cheaper, you know, a little bit cheaper than he was in the beginning. Next up, you've probably seen this guy in the background of a lot of videos, is my SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Piccolo figure. This is that first release that came with the, I think they always come with the, you know, cross arms, you know, extra piece. And this was the example that made me go so hard on the Storm Collectibles Bison, because all you do is pop those out and put in the regular arms at the bicep swivel, and you have no issues. So it's a fun figure to play with. I'm just not the biggest fan of Dragon Ball, so like he's the only one I have right now. I might pick up Trunks or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll pick up some of those Dragon Ball, what do they call them? Dragon Star figures. I like the way they look. It'll give me an opportunity to have something, you know, Dragon Ball related for him to fight. I like Beerus and Whis, so I might pick those characters up, and then, you know, hey, maybe I'll pick up a Goku. Who knows? It almost feels like sacrilege, but there was a time long ago where I really did like Dragon Ball Z. Maybe I'll get Goku and have him and Piccolo team up with Soups. Who knows? Now, as awesome as those guys are, now we got to move to the other side of the spectrum and talk about some of the most unfun figures I picked up last year. Now, these aren't necessarily bad as in poorly done, they're just not fun to play with. And we're going to start with Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, you're going to say, Strydent, I thought you loved those figures. Now, I love the figures in terms of how they captured the look of everybody. They all look like what they did in the film. But they didn't push anything. With her, she didn't come with a bunch of guns. She didn't come with some other type of weapon you saw her use in the film. Nothing. Just a pistol and an extra arm. She's bland. They didn't even give you, like, both looks from, you know, the Volume 1 and Volume 2. You know, give her extra head with an extra expression. Nothing. She's just a bland, you know, figure that looks like the actress, what was it, Karen Gilliam, I think her name is, and the likeness is there. It's just the fact that they didn't do anything else, you know what I mean? There could have been these kinds of characters. There's opportunities, like give me a battle damaged arm, because you remember for a chunk of the movie she had a battle damaged arm. It's just, these are the types of characters that design wise you have an opportunity to kind of give us a little bit more than what we were expecting. You know, you kind of have room to expand on what you can, what we can play out with this figure and what you package with the figure for us. And they just didn't do it here. So, you know, she was meh. And speaking of meh, here's the Praetorian Guard from Star Wars The Black Series. This figure is very meh because we saw their blades do multiple things and they just gave us one blade. Their design on their arms, that weird armor, you know, plating or whatever you want to call it, that's those cuffs. It's just too much, and they didn't make it. I had to cut the softer one around the elbow joint, and I still don't have a shitload of range of motion with this figure. And it's like, you know, these guys were fighters. That's the whole point. Why would you not sculpt or figure out a way to use softer material in one of the most important areas, since these guys they only have one weapon and they hold that weapon and they fight with that weapon. Why didn't you, you know, figure out another way to allow for more posability so that we can make them fight more? You know, that was just bad planning on Hasbro's part, which from time to time they really fail in that respect. And you know, this was an example of them failing at that. Next up, we have Mattel's Halo Universe Covenant Elite Zealot figure. Now the figure looks pretty cool. They captured most of the details. My issue with this figure, which makes him unfun, is his hands are really floppy and they are kind of positioned in a way that makes it weird to pose him with his weapons. I'm going to go into more detail because I also have the McFarlane ones, and this is something the McFarlane ones did perfectly. I mean, look at his arm. It looks strong, and I have him holding the arm up in a way that we've seen him gesture in the games, in the various media related to Halo. But then you look at the Elite Zealot by Mattel, and there's that weird curve. I don't know if it's so that he can hold a gun better, you know, because maybe that will help him hold a gun, but it's not like the G.I. Joes where they have an extra joint that allows them to go up and down as opposed to, you know, in and out. It's more of the ball socket joint is long and it's put in on an angle so his arm never straightens out, or his hand can never straighten out. It's stuck like this, and it's annoying, you know. He holds his sword better than the McFarlane one. I usually have to use, either it's balancing like you see in this picture, or I have to use something to hold it in place. But you can see the twist tie there holding it in place. But you know, posing him, that looks like he's about to stab someone with that damn sword. But then look at the Mattel version. He can't really gesture that way because number one, his hand can't face forward. I have to turn it sideways, and even still it looks kind of, I mean, it looks good. That's a better pose than the previous one, but you know, I want them to be able to do the same things so I can have a bunch of these guys fighting my Spartans. So you know, that wasn't a fun thing for me. You know, I don't like this weird angled hand, and I know it's a very small thing because I'm still gonna play with him, but it's something that thus far it's made me not want to play with him. Next up, Storm Collectibles M. Bison. I was really looking forward to this figure, and then he has the freaking Mafex Dark Knight 1.0 issue with the arms that don't sit in the sockets properly, and that pissed me off. I can't play with a Bison figure. I can't make him fight if his arms don't stay in the sockets. And I don't care what any of the folks that love this figure say, the awesome sculpt is sabotaged by shoddy build quality, a shoddy engineering. You know, it's not up to snuff for the price. I mean, could you imagine paying this price for like a Mezco figure and the arms just flop out of the sockets? Just no, not at all. Anyway, let's get back on track. Number 5. This one's a tie. It's a tie between the Kamen Rider Ryuki, Kamen Rider Siren / Femme or Fom, and Kamen Rider Black RX. I love Kamen Rider, you know it. It's my childhood. They're some of my favorite heroes. The designs are dope. You know, my meter swings more to the Showa era because they were more fight heavy and less gimmick heavy, you know, whereas nowadays it's more gimmicks. But I love Ryuki because the designs were just on point, and knights were the motif, you know, animals and knights, that hybrid. So you know, I had to get the Figuarts version of Siren / Fom because I just love what Figuarts brings to the table, and they improved on certain things. Her you know, sword is a little bit better. The sheath works a little bit better. The cape works a lot better because it's plastic for once, and this kind of plastic cape I don't mind. Black RX, he's just classic, and he was one of the ones I didn't have, so I had to go back and get him. And everything is awesome, especially those compound eyes. Look at that, it's just beautiful. SiSi Kamen Rider O's Xiaota combo. I love this figure. You know, I was waiting for it for a long time. I kept looking for one that was at a decent price, and I couldn't find one for the longest time. It kept escaping me, and then finally it happened. I did the review. I enjoyed doing that review, and I just enjoy looking at this figure. This is more so one of the ones where you enjoy the aesthetics, and it's not so much that you play with it very much, because he's got some build quality issues, and I know that SiCs are hit or miss with these things, and it's not that he breaks, it's just that certain parts don't lock in like they should with all these legs. You know, he comes with 2 sets of legs, but just look at all the sculpted detail and all the different materials used, you know, all the different translucents and the different types of paint, and of course those beautiful compound eyes, those famous Kamen Rider compound eyes. It's just, I can't really complain about anything on this dude because it's the SiC aesthetic that I love so much. Number 3, nitty gritty. Fire Emblem Fates Corinne by Figma. Now this figure kind of went under the radar because I think it was geared more towards Nintendo fans, and you know, because the Fire Emblem Fates or Fire Emblem series has been like one of those Nintendo mainstays for a while. But this figure is dope on several levels. This is the female version of one of the main characters, if not the main character. And to me, it's a more interesting design than the male version, even though overall it's a very interesting design. I mean, she's barefoot. They're barefoot, you know what I mean? And but they're fully armored. There's something kind of unique and interesting about that kind of an aesthetic or that kind of design choice. It's almost like they have to be very savage, very fast, very agile, and you know, being barefoot kind of helps. I'm not a fan of the games. I don't play the games. Maybe someday I will. I played some of one of the really old ones back in the day. I want to say it was on the DS, one version of the DS or another. I don't know, it didn't really stand out back then. I just liked the art. So this one stood out for me just for that reason. I like the colors. I love the, I mean, you know, with anime, there's certain color combinations that you always get when it comes to character designs, and Corinne isn't anything different. I mean, the colors, it's like they chose according to the color wheel and didn't really deviate too far from that. But, you know, with me loving fantasy and whatnot, she just fits in a way that a lot of other characters from Nintendo stuff doesn't. She has a unique look to her. It's kind of, you know, she can look kind of demure and kind of reserved, but at the same time, she can look savage and you know, badass, and I dig that. Also, the way this figure's engineered, you know, I love Figmas. I have a ton of Figmas, but the way this figure's engineered, she can do a lot of things that just looking at her, articulation-wise, you would never guess that she'd be capable of it. Like, her tunic doesn't restrict her legs at all. This is the kind of stuff I can't wait to see as a standard on American figures, so that's why she's on the list. Number 2. DC Collectibles, DC Films, Man of Steel, Superman, or BVS Superman, depending on, you know, how OCD you are about the designs. This figure, I love this figure. It's easily the best version of the Henry Cavill Superman that we've gotten in figure form, and somehow it didn't really hit the way it should have. DC Collectibles canceled this line due to lack of interest, which is amazing to me when you have so many shitty lines that just continue, you know what I mean? This figure does everything that I wanted to see on an American figure because it imitates the best things that Japanese figures do. And it's crazy to see DC Collectibles pull this off, but not get the attention that they wanted. I mean, the figure was like 30 bucks. A lot of internet retailers sold it, you know, for an upcharge at like 40 to 50. Some places they were kind of going ridiculous where it was like $90 and shit. It's a $30 figure. It could easily be a $50, $60 figure if, you know, we compare it to Japanese figures because the articulation is 100% figure arts. even got the pulled, it's old figure arts, it even has the pull down hip joint and everything. But man, the poses that I can get this guy in, the cape having the wire in it, and it's a pretty strong wire, it's just not connected to his shoulders. So you have to play with how you hook it up to get the cape to do what you want it to do. But after a few minutes, you figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not impossible. And the poses you get are just, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. The paint detail on this guy, there is zero slop. None. Zilch, zero, nada. The joint tolerances are amazing. You know, he holds whatever pose I put him in. The sculpt, the likeness to Henry Cavill, it's 100%. There's people out there who nitpick every single likeness on every figure, but this is not one of the ones that you can do that with. And I've seen billions of people do it. This looks like Henry Cavill. The colors themselves, it's more on point to what we saw in the film than, you know, what most of the figures have been, you know, trying to capture and failing at. So if you're still looking for an awesome movie Superman, and you know me and movie, you know, variations of figures, this is the one for Superman, you know, and we need good Superman figures, but this one fills that void.
And because I was a little indecisive, number 2.2,
the Cobra Hiss 2 from G.I. Joe. This was something I've wanted for a long time. I kind of want to have 3 of these, or at least 2. But I've been eyeing this thing forever, and the prices are so all over the place. I even contemplated refurbishing one myself, or restoring one myself. But I got lucky. I was at Big Fun, and my homeboy Jason had one, and they hooked me up. And I got one for a good price. This thing is awesome because it's exactly what you would expect in some ways from an upgrade to the original Cobra Hiss. The guns are bigger, you know, there's room for more troopers, both piloting the thing, you know, and in storage. Everything just looks good, and it still feels like Cobra. The color scheme even feels still along the lines of Cobra. It's unmistakably Cobra. And that's something I love about this design. It doesn't feel out of place. It feels very much still within the same, you know, confines as, you know, all the other Cobra vehicles, mainly the iconic ones, the blue vehicles, you know what I mean, like the Rattler and, of course, the Hiss Tank. I love the fact that there is plenty of storage in the back for your troopers. I thought that it wouldn't fit modern era figures very well, and it fits them fine. The only thing I had to do was take out, there's like a little bar. There were 2 bars that kind of separate them for your vintage era figures to hold on to while they're sitting in there. But the modern era figures don't need to hold it because they're taller, and it gives them more room to sit. And as far as armament goes, this thing is double the armament of, or triple the armament of the original Cobra Hiss. The original Cobra Hiss just had the guns on the top, or gun on the top. I think it was, no, it was 2 guns. This one has triple cannons on top, machine guns on the sides, and missiles on the sides as well. So it's kind of a very well fortified tank, more so than the original. It feels more like a tank. You've got lights, you've got, you know, your turret on the top, and there's a lot of detail on there. I'm sure there were stickers. I'm gonna find that stuff later, but right now I'm just glad to have this thing. It feels like it's definitely seen its share of battles, and it's got this iconic look to it that makes it fit perfectly with my Cobra stuff, because you know me, I've got a whole agenda for what I want my Cobra forces to look like and what I want them to use, you know, against my Joes. So this was an easy pick to be tied with my the BVS or DC Collectibles DC Film Superman. So yeah, Hiss Tank 2. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, the big point of doing these kind of videos are, number 1, Mattel's Multiverse Justice League Batmobile. This is the $60 version, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, this here is the reason why I am so hardcore into superheroes and why I've been a Batman collector for so long is, like, unfortunately, he has a lot of shit, and they make figures and toys of everything Batman related. But this also serves another purpose, because if you remember correctly, years ago I did a review on the DC Collectibles Batman the Animated Series Batmobile. It was an $80 to $100 vehicle that just had lights. That's really it. No weapons. Oh, it had seatbelts. And the canopy had problems sliding, and it just was an overpriced box. So I sold mine recently, and then with that money I was able to pick this up. This was $60. There's an RC version of this that costs $200, and you drive it with your phone, and there's an app and all this other shit. I don't need all that. I'm old school. I supply the action with my action figures. You know what I mean? You give me a figure or a vehicle that can do these things, and I will figure out how to do it in my, you know, man cave, in my house, with my other toys, etc., etc. Now, this is a full-sized Batmobile, 6-inch scale Batmobile that has all the stuff that, you know, we saw in Justice League. And now the movie, say what you will about it, but design-wise, all those movies have some good design work going on. There's a lot going on this vehicle because it was created to help Batman fight off an alien invasion. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all the guns and stuff, missiles maybe, but all the guns and stuff, I'm just like, man, but at least this time it was aimed at aliens and not aimed at humans. This missile launcher from the front, you guys remember this was in BVS, and we still felt like that's a little bit of overkill fighting, thugs and stuff, but it looks awesome. And here, the wheels, all the guns, the missile launchers, they're all on swivels. They peg into the Batmobile, and they're on swivels. And if you want to recreate what it looked like back in the day, in the older, in BVS, you can just pull all that stuff off. And you have a simplified, standard Batmobile. No guns, just that big-ass rocket launcher on the front. I think that looks dope. And I love that they gave us that ability, I guess, to do that. The detailing on this thing is phenomenal, and considering this is Mattel, when they try, they can blow you away. But the big overarching point that this vehicle makes, and the reason why I have had so much fun with it, is not only did it not break my wallet, it didn't break the bank, it's something you can easily play with. It's kind of light, so you can one-hand it and make it jump and all that kind of shit. It's got detail inside and out, and it just proves that point that just because it's bigger doesn't mean the price has to be ridiculous. It was affordable, it's substantial, there's a lot of playability. I mean, all the gears and the joystick for the big gun, the throttle, and the steering wheel all move. I mean, there's simple things when you think about it from a design standpoint, from an engineering standpoint. They didn't do any magic to make those things move. There's a hinge and a slot, that's it. Or a ball socket joint for the joystick so it can move around in all directions. But it still gives you the feeling like Batman can actually be posed doing something. And if you have the two best versions, which right now, I guess you could say 3 if you count the Figuarts Justice League Batman, you could have him, recreating a lot of poses and whatnot that you've seen in the, in the films. So I'm waiting on my my BVS Batman from Mezco, and then he will be the only Batman that I'll be having in that vehicle if I'm recreating any movie stuff. But you can also have your, there's a peg hole on the top where you saw Strydent standing, and you can have Aquaman standing on the back. So this thing just is one of those gifts that keeps on giving. This was my Christmas gift to myself because my wife couldn't pick it up because it was sold out by the time she got around to it. So I was like, in preparation for that, I managed to pick one up. But I am loving it. It's worth it. And it's my #1. I'm still playing with it now. I was playing with it before I finished this video. So anyway, that brings us to the end of my most fun and most unfun figures of 2017. And now we are in 2018, and that just sounds weird. And There are a lot more awesome figures to come, lots of custom stuff. I'm going to have a lot of third-party things, you know, like accessory parts that I'm going to be talking about in some videos. And I'm going to be reviewing some older figures that I have somehow skipped over all these years, and some newer figures as always. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me for this video. And as always, just stay tuned for all the craziness that's coming, and you know, all the awesomeness that's coming as well. So that's it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.